You didn't go to the dentist, did you?
Did so? I don't know why, but I believe her.
Bubbles, I swear to God!
Duh.
Ah, the dentist. Who doesn't love the dentist, am I right? Continuing the trend of basic episode ideas we've seen before, this week we've got a teeth-related plot, but thankfully it's not a moral decay ripoff, so that's at least a relief right off the bat. In fact, to be honest, the two basically have nothing in common at all, which I'm sure is a good sign for many considering moral decay tends to be one of the most hated PPG episodes out there. Although that doesn't automatically mean this episode's better. Nah, we gotta wait and see how it plays out first. The title, in case you hadn't already guessed, is based off of Truth or Consequences, an American game show that ran from 1940 to 1988. Or maybe it's based off a city in New Mexico. Who knows?
No, Bubbles. You always hear lyrics wrong. It's, oh, the itsy bitsy spider went out for sauerkraut.
Our episode opens up to the girls chilling around the table, eating breakfast and chatting it up, with Buttercup singing the wrong lyrics to the itsy bitsy spider for some reason. As with most PPG reboot episodes, this here is the running gag, and it's gotta be one of the weakest ones I think I've seen from this show. It's not really clever, it's literally just Buttercup saying the wrong thing and getting corrected. It is during this mind-numbing debate between Buttercup and her sister Bubbles that Blossom chimes in and makes a small remark that her tooth is hurting her.
My tooth hurts.
Your tooth hurts? That's great!
What a dick. Alright, he has a reason for saying that, I guess. Although that still doesn't justify saying it's a good thing his daughter is in pain, but whatever. Conveniently, coincidentally, whatever you want to call it, the girls have an appointment at the dentist today, so Blossom won't have to wait to get that cavity filled right up. As with most kids, I'm sure you can probably guess that Blossom isn't all too excited to hear that. And while Buttercup remarks that getting a cavity is not that bad, she admits that she wants a cavity so that she can test her pain threshold. Okay, that's good for her, I guess. Yeah, somehow the girl who has rotten teeth that could fall out at any moment and horrid breath doesn't have a cavity, but the one who brushes 5 times a day keeping them in tip-top shape does. Ain't that some bad luck? Buttercup, being the ever so loving and totally not a selfish jerkface that she is, then proceeds to scare the crap out of Blossom by talking about the evil dentist and the sheer agony she will endure once he starts using his drills on her teeth, leading Blossom to become horrified of getting her cavity drilled out. Too bad for her, she's gotta go regardless, and later that day they find themselves at the dentist office where Buttercup is still going on about these obnoxiously incorrect song lyrics for whatever reason.
Down came the rain and washed the spider out.
Nah. Down came the rain and then they found a trout. Right, Bloss?
They have the internet, she can just look this shit up.
Buttercup and Bubbles are called at the same time while Blossom waits just a little bit longer by her lonesome so that her fear can muster up a little bit. Her panting gets heavier as she begins to see drills all over the place, even getting scared by a maintenance worker who has a power drill in their hand. I mean, quite frankly, this would have terrified me under the given circumstances if I were a kid. Red eyes and a power drill? Yeah, that activate fight or flight instincts. So as she flies for her life, she ends up finding a bathroom and stays hidden in there until she can come up with a way of getting out of having her teeth cleaned and filled by the dentist. Oh, by the way, I spy an animation error.
Huh?
Gee, I wonder if she will escape out the window. Yeah, she escapes out the window and reconvenes with the rest of her family outside in the waiting room. Buttercup's disappointed that she doesn't have any cavities, so she's left feeling unsatisfied, and Bubbles, well, Bubbles is apparently so diligent with brushing her teeth that the dentist asked to use her for the new company logo outside, and I'd recommend you keep that detail in mind because it does show up later. Upon Blossom's arrival in the room, she lies to the professor and her sisters about seeing the dentist, and instead of being the logical parent and asking to, see the fillings or talk to the dentist or even just ask how it got done so fast, the professor continues his dipshit ways of being a dipshit and takes his daughters out for ice cream. Yeah, as anyone would guess, Blossom's toothache only begins to grow a bit more because she never got it fixed, and her sisters chow down on some extra crunchy peanut brittle because we really gotta emphasize the act of chomping down on hard, brittle crunchy food to scare Blossom into not eating any. Finally, after like an hour of in-episode time, her sisters finally question why she doesn't have a toy while the professor is completely brainless to the conversation taking place directly in front of him, and she responds that she told the dentist to keep it for himself for once. This causes them to get a little suspicious. It would have been smart on the professor's part to use this opportunity to test if Blossom was really telling the truth or not, but I guess he's got less intelligence than a glass jar because he never thinks to do that.
Something smells fishy to me.
Me too. But boss, the salmon-flavored ice cream just ain't selling.
That's because you're not pushing it hard enough, Greg.
Buttercup begins catching on and suggests Blossom take a big bite of her sundae, but it gets interrupted by a call on Bubbles' phone that Infernus is attacking the town. You know, Infernus. Come on, you gotta know who Infernus is. No? Yeah, neither do I. He's basically just some random fire monster guy who the girls fight this one time. He's not really all that important, and this fight is utterly disappointing and forgettable. Just know that Blossom's ice breath turned to fire thanks to her toothache, and she fails to defeat him because he's, well, impervious to fire. Her failure here is what inevitably gives her away to her sisters later that night when the two of them call her out for skipping her appointment. You know, this would have been a cool opportunity for Blossom to save the day for once, but we don't even get to see how they get out of it. Did Bubbles and Buttercup end up pulling a satisfying victory off in the end? Did the three girls get the tar beat out of them? We never get to see, and the episode drops the plot point entirely after this moment because apparently it's not as important to the clearly more exciting and enticing narrative that everyone would rather pay attention to: Blossom's achy tooth. Her toothache is getting super bad at this point. It's only getting more and more grotesque at an ultra rapid pace, and every moment she doesn't go to the dentist, it's only going to progress more. So, knowing this, what does she do? She pulls a random root out claiming it'll help cure her via natural remedy, and she goes to bed. Here's a spoiler that's not really a spoiler at all. It doesn't work. Whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I should mention that while she's asleep, she has a nightmare of a different looking dentist compared to the one from earlier, attempting to drill out all of her teeth again, which I only found worth mentioning because of the genius pun it included.
Blossom, you are late. I told you tooth hurty.
Alright, now, where was I? Yeah. She wakes up looking like this hideous monster and ugh. Jesus, what was in that root? I mean, dang, when I look at this, all I can see is the Splinter from SpongeBob, an episode that's infamous for its gross out and shock humor that was poorly received by most fans. This is in a similar vein, but I wouldn't say it's as gross. Still, this wasn't exactly pleasant to witness, especially because it's happening to Blossom of all girls. She's green now, she has these dots on her, her mouth takes up half her face so you can only see her right eye, she's magically in her pajamas now despite going to bed in her regular clothes, and above all else, she has fingers because for some reason the show feels the need to give the girls fingers. First Electric Buttercup and now this?
What is even happening?
I don't know, Bubbles, but I want it to stop. Blossom runs into town and destroys an utterly random toothbrush stand that's just sitting in the middle of the street at like 1 in the morning, as well as a jackhammer that's being operated by a construction worker because apparently he's working around the clock overtime at 1 a.m. Okay, so like, I can give the random toothbrush stand a pass because it's just a lucky coincidence, although I don't know why it's just randomly on a city sidewalk instead of like inside a store. At the very least, the owner should have closed the stand down considering it's, you know, nighttime. But can I just take a second to note that there are construction workers operating noisy power equipment in the middle of the night when people are trying to sleep? That's gotta be annoying for both parties involved. The mayor's here too, picking flowers in the middle of the night, as are a bunch of other people in the middle of the night. Why? Oh, so Blossom can be chased with industrial-sized drills. Yeah, it's lame. Her sisters see this going down and proceed to catch up with her after she escapes out of town, with a sudden thunderstorm popping up as the two try to convince her to go to the dentist, because it's thematic. As we've seen for the past 9 minutes, she's completely opposed to the idea of seeing the dentist, which is how we got into this situation in the first place. That is, until the professor shows up to save the day.
This may surprise you, but I know that you dodged the dentist.
Wow! What gave that away?
Easy, Buttercup. I only got a bill for 2 daughters.
Ha! Get it? Because he was only billed for 2 kids! Ha! 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 Hilarity. Blossom says she's scared, the professor says he'll sit through it with her, and she agrees to go to the dentist. Yep, just like that. Conflict resolved, episode over, I'll take my check now, and...
Oh!
Said I'd give you another toothache if you didn't go.
I said I was gonna go!
Ah, my bad.
That was deserved. All of this was the result of a toothache, remember. A toothache so bad that it caused Blossom to turn green, grow fingers, feel immense pain, and speak one word at a time because it caused her mental capacity to drop all the way to that of a 2-year-old's.
No! No dentist! No! No! Toothbrush! No! No drill! Monster? No drill! No! No! Back! No! No dentist! Scared! Okay, Professor. I'll go.
That right there was literally all of the dialogue Blossom has until she agrees to go to the dentist. I honestly despise this episode because it just makes Blossom's character look even worse than it already is. This did nothing to improve her, nothing to make me like her more, and especially nothing to make her stand out from her sisters in a positive way. Instead, she's an obnoxious disappointment, which doesn't come as a surprise for me. So presumably the next day at the dentist, her appointment went well and she got the cavity all taken care of. So her face and mouth are entirely back to normal and everything's a-okay. Remember how I mentioned Bubbles was offered to use her smile in an advertisement? It's now outside the dentist office on their billboard, so at least this episode was wise enough to do something like that and bring this little subplot full circle. Blossom realizes she made a mountain out of a molehill and takes it up as if the dentist was a breeze. Nothing to worry about whatsoever. So it seems she at least had some kind of character growth. But then the professor notes that her front teeth are coming in crooked, and she's all like,
No problemo. No braces!
Oh, come on!
and then the episode ends on that note. So Blossom didn't grow and what she learned was pointless. Just like this episode. Gotcha. Overall, I find Toother Consequences to be entirely forgettable, and I honestly hope I do end up forgetting about it given a few weeks' time. Normally I can say I at least came away with something, whether positive or negative, from every episode of the reboot. Very infrequently do I have an instance where I say I got nothing out of an episode, but this is one of those cases where I got exactly that out of the episode. Nothing. Just like Sister Sitter, I honestly think I could have skipped this one and nothing would have really been lost. And I'm sorry if this video wasn't my best either, but I can only do so much when I have minimal interest in what I'm talking about. It wasn't in the so bad it's horrible category, and it didn't impress me in any capacity. So this is just gonna sit on that pile in the middle that doesn't really belong anywhere. It's not good, it's not horrendous, it's not decent, it's not okay, it's just... ugh. I think that final ending leaves a lot of open questions, such as how she ended up back there in the first place and whatnot, but I can't be bothered to think about it. In fact, I'm just gonna pretend it ends right as Blossom smiles, because it's a better ending that way anyways. At least her character isn't completely undone, and she grows as a person. It's more positive, more satisfactory, and it implies Blossom genuinely did learn her lesson. By showing this final gag on the cliff, it just acts as more proof that she isn't smart, because if she was, she would have learned her lesson. There's plenty of other Afraid of the Dentist episodes I'd rather watch, honestly. It kinda didn't even feel like the reboot if I'm being honest. Next episode, please. I'm so done with this one.